Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King 3. And today I'm back with part 5 of What If Naruto Broke His Chakra Limiter? Remember to get this one too. 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends on your social media platform. And also guys, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice, yes, I indeed have 3 channels that I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. Anime King 2, Anime King 3, Anime Symbol. So go ahead and check them out guys and enjoy. I'll be leaving all the links down in the description. And don't forget to turn on the bell notification to see exactly when I post, because I do post a hell of a lot. So without further ado or wasting any more time, how about we jump right into this brand new episode. Let us begin now guys. A bit of a recap for the last part that we left off. A lot has happened in the past couple of years around the Elemental Nation. Hiruzen felt like a failure because he was unable to locate or find Root at all. There was nothing that he was doing that was making a difference or that was literally changing anything. As he could not find Naruto, it didn't matter how hard he tried. Given how long it has been and given that the information that recently surfaced about what happened at the Uzumaki land, he did not even know if that was Naruto, but the Hidden Stone had taken drastic measures because they saw something that they never saw before. It was the land. The land of Whirlpool was a phenomenal place. It was the things that were being grown there. It was the land, the soil, everything about it was so majestic. No one tended to notice this because of the war that had waged there, but now no one had claimed it and Kano had not made a move. So the Hidden Stone decided to take it and use it to produce high quality stuff. And everything was just so high quality that they were ripping through that part of the market somewhere that they've never actually excelled in once. Some major changes happened around the Elemental Nation though. The Land of Grass and a few other villages was attacked by unknown foes. No information was given out, as the villages had kept these information secretive to themselves, not wanting many to know about what happened and how much of their forces were damaged. We then skipped to Kinsaki, who was the son-in-law of the Hokage Onki, as him and his people were there. On this day though, something happened, something that would change everything. Someone arrived. It was none other than Naruto, but given the couple of years that passed, his age didn't make much sense, as he was much older than he should be. Kitsuki thought that it was Minato Namikaze at first, given the resemblance, but he was wrong. That is when Naruto disassembled each and every one of them. He burned the huts that they built there, crushing the homes. Everyone was shocked by his powers. They tried to fight him, but they stood no chance. Something was incredibly wrong, given that Naruto was a nice, innocent person that didn't like to hurt people, but now here he was, butchering. Naruto removed Kitsuki's head before heading towards the Land of Stone. Showing how superior he was, Naruto was able to bypass everything and drop the head right on Oniki's decks. As Kurosaki was there as well to see her father's head, it scarred her. Oniki was angry as he tried to reduce Naruto to dust, but Naruto outpaced his technique with an incredible amount of speed that shocked them all. As Naruto warned him that if he stepped against him and his people, he will demolish him. and everyone that he loves. With that, Naruto returned. Upon returning, something else also came. A gigantic castle that was hovering in the sky. This castle belonged to the Sky Nation, a man known as Shino, who had gathered his forces over the past couple of years. The Sky Nation was good friends with the Uzumakis back in the past, as they believed that, given their spectacular strength, they should combine their forces and take over the great nations. However, the Uzumaki people were wiped out before anything was solidified between them. However, there were a few Uzumakis that escaped underground, as they had made their way there, and they've lived there for the past couple of years, trying to build their home once again. That is where Naruto has been for the past couple of years. Him and Asuna had been looking for the Uzumakis that had escaped, which led them to find the people that were located at the Land of Sky. After speaking to some of them Asuna even know, because of their longevity they were able to weather through the time that passed. Naruto had found the others as well. Karin and her younger brother, and her mother who was on the verge of death. However, Naruto restored her before demolishing 80% of the grass ninjas who had kept them captive. Over the years, Naruto's mindset had turned into something dark. Asuna had passed her father in Fuinjutsu some time ago, as she was able to use her father's idea for the library and build a space that flows differently, allowing them to train, as their time in there was a lot longer than what it was in reality, allowing them to grow their skills and become the best they could. As Naruto manipulates the Mokiton, yes, he manipulated the Mokiton to perform a powerful technique, as using Fuinjutsu, using time and space and creation, Mokiton and the Earth style, Naruto was able to rebuild the entire Uzumaki home. Yes, he rebuilt it all. It was a powerful seals that mapped out everything from the former home and made them better. The people there were shocked, and there was so much of them, as Naruto and Asuna had gathered a lot of forces over the years. There were Haku, Zabuza, former ninjas from Kiri but now on their side, and there were several others. Word was going to break soon about this, and once it does, all matter of chaos was about to begin, as the Uzumakis were back. So yeah guys, basically as we left off, you guys can switch across the play, check it out for yourself so to begin this new episode. Word spread like wildfire across the elemental nation about the revival of the Uzumaki clan. It could not be explained how the hell buildings rose up so fast, as no one had answers. Right now everything was secretive. No one was making a move to get too close. After hearing about the death of the son-in-law of the Hokage, the fact that the one who claimed his life returned his head as a sign to show his power got the world shaking. The world has been in a relative peace for the past couple of years, but this, everyone was locked in, everyone was strapped in, knowing that this was going to be big. The mere sign that the Uzumakis were here and they weren't messing around, given those that came together to wipe them out in the past. Well, things were not looking so good. At the moment, Naruto stepped through, as the doors were opened for him by two ninjas at the side. He was wearing a red and white clothing with a swirling pattern with wings on it. The swirling pattern was red and the wings were white, the new symbol of their village. The wings symbolizing two things: their freedom and also a representation for the majority of shinobis that came from the Sky Country as well. And the Uzumaki pattern showing the revival of their clan. A lot of the people that resided in this room right now was former missing nins that Naruto has come across in his travels with Asuna. He made his way and sat down as he removed the hat from his head. He wasn't much for the fancy clothing. However, it was a sign to show his representation for his home. As Naruto looked at each and every one of them, he stood at the head of the table. Asuna was to his right. Now in her early 20s, Asuna had turned into a beauty amongst beauty, with the athletic features to match, making her look like a goddess. As her hair was flowing down in her back, her skin flawless as usual, and her beauty had reached remarkable heights. Not to mention, her body had turned into something that most would kill for. She was truly spectacular as she sat nearby Naruto. To his right, to Naruto's left was a former missing nin of Kumo. It was a man. His name was Tsuyomi, the Storm Reaper. Tsuyomi was a prodigy of Kumo. He was given the name back then when he was at the village, the Thunder Child. He was obsessed with growing his strength, which led to him stealing something very powerful. A goblet, a powerful artifact that said to have come from the age of the Sage of Six Paths, to amplify his elemental chakra, which led to him being seen as a traitor to his own village. He didn't mean to go against his village, only thing that he desired was strength. Losing his parents at a young age, he realized that was the only thing that he needed to survive this world, strength and power. Blessed with a powerful bloodline known as the Storm Release, he left his village. As they hunted for him, they came after him without hesitation to return the artifact that he stole and to get their vengeance on him for those who he killed when he was almost captured. Tsuyomi has a rather imposing build with grey eyes. He had short, frizzy white hair that cackle when he used his abilities, as they seem to match the aesthetic of lightning. The way they move and cackle around. He had tan skin and muscles that would make you think that he was slow, but far from it. His storm release manipulation made him a very powerful individual. On his own, the only thing that he thirsted for was battle, to grow his strength, to not be burdened by any. When he came across Naruto, yes, believing that he would have come out on top, Naruto made him a deal. The both of them came to blows. It was that day that Tsuyomi went to one knee. Yes, it was the sheer respect that he had for Naruto, becoming one of his most loyal. Because never before has he actually feared and loved the battle that he was taking on. Everyone simply went for the clean shot, but somehow Naruto understood him through their hands, their blows shaking the very environment around them. He gave Naruto all that he got, and Tsuyomi knew on that day that there was no one more powerful than this man. Absolutely no one. His personality was of a junkie. He was a thrill seeker with a twisted sense of honor. He relished fighting strong opponents to put his life on the line, but he's never felt the thrill like it would be taken away. But going up against Naruto, it brought him something that he never thought that he would find ever again. The last time he felt something anywhere close to that was when he almost came to blows with the third Hokage when he was much younger. And that man was a monster if there ever was one. However, Tsuyomi has gotten a lot stronger over the past couple of years. A lot stronger. Tsuyomi's ultimate goal was to become a godlike individual that will be able to gain total control over the heavens himself. With his storm release, and with that powerful goblet at his side, his goal was obtainable. But even then, he did not believe that he would be able to defeat Naruto, which was telling a lot. Near to Tsuyomi was another, His name was Zabuza Momochi. Zabuza was a former ninja of Kiri. His partner Haku was not here. Their run-in was an accident. It was a mission that Zabuza was sent on. However, it got in the way of Naruto's lifetime mission, which led to a battle between them. Zabuza and Haku almost died. But instead of killing them, though, Naruto offered them sanctuary. A place where they didn't have to run anymore. Where they didn't have to fear the guards from the Mizukage coming for them. The Hunter Squad. He would protect them if they assigned their loyalty over towards him. He gave them the option to bow or to flee. In the end, they joined him. And Zabuza was here now. Besides Zabuza was another missing nin. Her name was Pakura. Her situation was a bit different. Pakura was named the hero of the sun. A brilliant, powerful woman. She had orange eyes, green hair. The two bangs that came down in her face was orange. She also possessed a very powerful bloodline, a mix of wind and fire, known as a scorch release. Pakura was betrayed by her village, the hidden stone, and the sand was having some debacle, and it was on that day that she made herself known as a very powerful kunoichi, someone not to be trifled with. However, she was betrayed by her own. Shocking, yes, but still. The sand was having some problems with the land of water, which led to Kira making a move. They were able to deal with that as Pakura was supposed to be there as an ambassador, but she was betrayed and killed by an ambush that they set. After her death, Rasa and the seniors pinned the blame on the stone. Despite knowing that was not truthful, he sold out one of his own for what he could get from Kiri just like that. Like she was nothing. Naruto actually found her clinging on to life. When she first saw him, she thought he was some kind of god, that her time was over in this mortal world. He was still young back then, and yet she saw what he did to all those that decided to finish the job. He ripped them apart with his bare hands. She didn't see him use any hand signs. And he also healed her. Given how badly she was messed up, she was confused how he did though. However, it wasn't just naturally healing. He actually shared his life force with her. How was that even possible, she had questioned, as he brought her to safety. At first, she was not under the assumption that she would bow to a child, serving a child, but as the time went on, she quickly found out that this was no ordinary child. His mindset. It was the world that turned him this way. It was just a short few years of going around, observing, and Naruto was turned into a completely different person. Pakura was there as she watched Naruto grow, also growing her skills as well, as she swore her loyalty to him and their new village. Beside her was a girl. She was the youngest here. She was a Uzumaki. Her name was Urza. Urza was a very special Uzumaki, born with a chakra unlike any other Uzumaki before. Her chakra was extremely dense, even denser than Naruto's in a normal capacity. While the normal Uzumaki was able to craft chains from their chakra, she could craft all sorts of weapons and armor as well. It fit with her fighting spirit, someone that doesn't give up easily, someone that push past their limit if it is needed. She was a prodigy of their clan, an ace in the hole before they were found. Even at a young age, she showed remarkable talents, not just physically but strategically as well. Her mind, her skills, it allowed her to be here. Shino was next to her, the once great leader of the Sky Nation. Next to Shino was the two elders, And that were the current members that were situated here. The place was divided but united. Each of these members had people under them that had control over a certain part of the country in terms of their political and strategical movements for the home and the growth of their home. Each of them had put everything forward, realizing that this was their new home now. However, for the greater matters, those were discussed here, with Naruto having the final say. However, for the things that were needed for the village and the home and small meeting between their allies, things like those could be handled by them. Because it wasn't only people that Naruto had gathered over the years, it was allies as well. Most had not been keeping their eye on the land of Wave and several other countries. While they were not allied to any large countries, the smaller countries that they were allied to were more beneficial than any of the larger countries. The only thing they were lacking was manpower. However, the land of Whirlpool don't need any manpower to take on any threat that might be thrown at them. There wasn't a single doubt about that. As Naruto cleared his throat and spoke, each and every one of us has a past. Each and every one of us has been through it. Naruto said, looking at all of them. On the day I met all of you, on the day that each and every one of you signed your loyalty over to me, I made you a promise. I told you that there will be no more running. Thousands of people that reside here who have been betrayed, who have been cast out, who have been attacked because they're not strong enough, put through so much misery and so much pain, be treated like they were lesser than human just because they weren't strong enough. Over the past couple of years, we were able to bring their hope back for them to see that they won't be left out in the cold anymore, and now we've given them a home, innocent people, and it is our responsibility to protect them all. Thus, as I swore on my life, to protect each and every one of you as well. The constant disrespect from the larger nations to even going as far as to commandeer a land that did not belong to them. My action was swift and fast, but there will be repercussions, said Naruto. And just like the past where I asked you all to come together and lend me your strength to make this village a home for each and every one, I come seeking that once again, said Naruto. To protect our people, to protect those that we've come to see as families, to put our life on the line to make sure that none of us are harmed, to keep everyone safe. We cannot take the peaceful road, because if we do, the past will simply repeat itself and they will come after us. They will be swift and deadly. They will not hesitate to cut each and all of us down. So that is why, when it does come to it this time around, as I can foresee an eventual war breaking out between us and at least two of the great nations, the only ending of this is us being able to remain as we are and no longer be opposed by any threat. Each and every one of them understood what Naruto meant by that. His gaze fixated on them very seriously, as they knew what it would take. They knew what they were being asked to do. They knew the range and the distance that they would have to go. Some of them coming from some of the villages that they would go up against. As they all met each other gaze, looking around at one another, before they all fixated their gaze back on Naruto, Tsuyomi smiled. As he looked at Naruto, he slammed his fist in his palm, as there was a little electricity. Absolutely no surrender, boss, he said, referring to Naruto with so much respect despite him being older than Naruto. As Tsuyomi was a very outspoken person, so him calling Naruto boss was the highest respect that he would go to call someone. Yes, given that he spent the majority of his years only believing in him and him alone. As each of the members placed their hand out on the table, raising a hand sign of unity, A smile graced Naruto's features as he placed his hand down as well. A connection between all of them to show that there will be absolutely no surrender. Time skip. A massive window was over observing the village. As Naruto stood there, Asuna entered the office behind him. She had papers in her hand. Naruto turned towards her as a sweat drop formed at the side of his head. As he was looking directly at her, "I swear, you're simply making these up to punish me," he said, as she rested her hands on her waist after placing down the papers. And who was it again that said they should hold off on agreeing too much with their new allies until we get things off the ground and running, when they could have done this and spare themselves some good time? As Naruto looked down embarrassed, he would have simply duplicated himself with a clone technique. However, if he did that and then used more clones to sign all these papers, everything that he read, everything that he signed, would come back to him the moment he dispelled the clone. And all of that information would be a lot on his mind. Granted, Naruto didn't have that much of a problem doing it on his own, as he liked to see how things were coming along with the people that he met, people that he had so much trust in. As Naruto proceeded to sit down, she stepped behind him and placed her hands on his shoulder. "Things are different now. You have a lot of responsibility. But I don't need to tell you that," she said to him. "You've given these people hope, a dream to look forward to, and now they all can see that you're a man of your word, and you will never let them down." Naruto held one of her hands that were resting on his shoulder. "I wasn't alone," he said. "Don't count yourself so short. You were there from the very beginning. None of this would have been possible if you weren't there," he said, holding her hand as he was still looking forward. A beautiful smile graced her features. However, before any other word could be said, there was a knock. As Naruto told the person to enter, the man stepped inside and bowed his head. "Sir, a report from the sensor team. Someone is coming," he said, as Naruto narrowed his gaze. Time skip. Jiraiya of the Sannin was currently having a conversation with the captain of the boat that was leading him towards the island that was situated within the depths of the ocean. As the captain came to a stop, fearing for his life and his crewmates, as he didn't want their downfall because they stepped foot on that island, much less the other two. After all, he did hurt things. The Sannin had no choice but to take the small boat that was docked on the larger ship. As he started to row until he came across a little bit of problems. The whirlpools. They were large. However, Jiraiya was surprised when the whirlpool suddenly stopped. So it's a manual control, he thought to himself. He always figured that, even after hearing stories about the Uzumakis in the past, not having much interaction with this place despite him being old enough to know about it. As he made his way, the Sannin had received news a couple weeks back. He sent word to Hiruzen. He made his way to the village so they could have a proper conversation regarding what was the next step. And he was here to discuss that next step with Naruto. After seeing this, the Sannin had no doubt in his mind that Naruto would not return back to the Hidden Leaf Village. There was no doubt about that. As he made his way, he came to a stop, ensuring that the boat would stay there as he started to walk on the sand. Jiraiya was a very confident person in his strength and everything, and yet, the closer he got to this village, the closer he felt like he could be killed at any moment. The Sannin looked around as he could not see anyone, but yet, he could feel someone watching him, observing every single movement that he made. Despite that overwhelming sensation, he could not really see anyone as the Sannin continued to make his way. It wasn't long before he saw massive gates. These weren't just any normal gates. The Sannin was shocked by their size. They were almost as tall as the Hokage's tower. There were two smaller entrants on the massive gate. It led Jiraiya to question what exactly were they transporting through that gate? Why was it so massive? The wall that was erected around the entire village. Spam all around as far as his eyes could see. The two other islands were connected by a land patch and a small little stream that could easily be walked across, but Jiraiya doubted that his eyes were telling him everything. As he made his way, everything was so locked up, so secured. One of the gates opened up as someone emerged. Despite his distance, Jiraiya could not tell whether it was a woman or a man, as they were mostly covered up in a uniform that he's not seen before. Well, he shouldn't be surprised. As he slowly made his way, the person was also moving towards him. Before they came to a stop, the Sannin also paused. Not knowing how things were going to go, all he wanted was a simple conversation on behalf of Konoha. They were once allies with Uzu after all. Not to mention Naruto was once a citizen of the village. The person was not making a move as Jiraiya was about to say something when the voice spoke. Jiraiya was caught completely off guard. If the child had not said a word, the Sannin wouldn't have known. He spun around so quickly, leaving his back wide open. As Naruto was standing there, the Sannin was forcefully slipped into his fighting stance and being snuck upon. Just who in the hell was this, and how did they get behind him, he wondered. There is no need to worry. If I wanted you dead, you would have been dead a long time ago. As the person's eyes looked down, Jiraiya looked down as well. The sand was unnatural now that he took a closer inspection. Who are you? Said Jiraiya. I suppose this is natural. We've never met face to face. As the person finally fully turned to face him, Jiraiya looked in shock. Wait, that's not possible, he said. Seeing the two key features, not to mention how much he looked like Minato when he was in his later teens. Naruto, he said. Yes, it is me, said Naruto. But he looked up and down, stepping to analyze Naruto. You're supposed to be around 13 years old right now. Yes, I suppose that is correct. However, a lot has happened. A lot has changed. Naruto said, stepping forward. Fuinjutsu has allowed us to break even time itself. Confusion marred Jiraiya's face before Naruto took his hand and shook it. It's a pleasure finally to meet you face to face. As much of a pervert you are, my parents told me good things about you, Godfather, said Naruto. Jiraiya was shocked when he heard that. Wait, your parents? He said, looking at Naruto. Yes, Naruto said as he placed a hand towards his stomach. They placed their chakra inside of me before their death. Given my unique circumstances, it was hard to locate it, but as stated, Fuinjutsu can even mess with time itself, so it wasn't hard in the long run. I was able to meet the both of them. We had a long conversation, which only happened through, you know it, Fuinjutsu, said Naruto. I was able to understand them, and then me, despite only being fragments of their real beings. It was something I greatly needed, and they told me about you as well. When I heard, I wanted to end your life, Naruto said. In that time, the world had been putting me through a ringer, again and again and again. There was so much rage inside of me. However, when I finally tracked you down, you tracked me down, said Jiraiya. Yes, I've been watching you for some time now, said Naruto. I want you to understand what kind of man you are. If the only thing that you desire was to bring me back for your own, twisted purpose of being a loyal Konoha ninja. However, I was wrong. During your travels, I was able to see that you actually felt bad for your actions. I was also able to see that you're a very miserable person, said Naruto, who cloaks all of that with a lot of things around him. I suppose what I've been through has taught me to understand emotion on a much more wider scale than before. But there's nothing to worry about anymore. Despite the both of us not sharing blood, we are still connected as family. And it's good that I can finally get to meet you face to face. So you've been watching me this entire time, said Jiraiya. Yes, said Naruto. I wanted to know what kind of man you are. And you did prove me that you are someone worth keeping alive. Now, how about we step inside, Naruto said. You are my first visit that was not scheduled or a threat on my name and my village. Naruto said, walking, the Sannin following Naruto. Jiraiya felt a bit awkward, given that Naruto was much older than he originally expected. So he said the first thing that he thought about. How exactly was Fuinjutsu able to age you more than you should be right now, he said, curious if Naruto was going to give up that information. It's called a time chamber, Naruto said, as he walked alongside Jiraiya, the Sannin taking notice of the people as they step beyond the gates. A time chamber, Jiraiya questioned. Yes, time is altered there on a much larger scale, allowing the suppression of normal time out here, said Naruto. Think of it as a separate dimension where time flew X amount certain times slower than it originally flew, said Naruto. So you went in there to train, Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded his head as the Sannin was amazed. Truly, being the first that wasn't welcome here to witness something like this. The architecture of the place, the buildings, crafted with such a immaculate design, their colors. The village was just so bright, welcoming and warm. As the Sannin looked around in amazement. So, what do you think, said Naruto. It's amazing. The first thing that slipped from the Sannin's mouth as he looked around. The place was truly immaculate. The more time that passed, the more Jiraiya became a bit concerned. Yes, he understood that the both of them share a link because he was his godfather, but Naruto was more than welcoming, respectful and welcoming beyond anything that he would have ever expected. However, it isn't just that. The Sannin saw the way people reacted and people behaved around him. It seems like he was the one in charge here. Could that be possible? At first, Jiraiya thought that Naruto was simply recruited by whoever was restarting the Uzumaki clan. Come to say the Uzumaki clan now, he noticed that majority of them didn't have red hair. Perhaps over time the color had branched out with other non-Uzumakis, but he doubted that was the entire case. There seemed to be other people here that was recruited to join this village. Jiraiya thought as they walk and talk, him trying his best to get as much information as he possibly can, just to try to understand everything that was going on around here. And just as he thought, Naruto was indeed the leader. The mere fact that they made him the leader, Jiraiya had to question a few things. Was it because of him possessing near limitless chakra? Speaking of that as well, the Sannin was still a bit iffy about that. Still not fully understanding how that was even possible. He had yet to bring up anything regarding that subject. As they made their way towards what seemed to be an office, it was at least 2 times larger than the office at Konoha. The building itself was massive, towering over most of them, as he was able to observe everything from the massive windows inside. Jiraiya stood there alongside Naruto as Naruto offered the man a seat, which he took. He sat on the couch. During his visit around, Jiraiya had met many people that Naruto had come in contact with. It was almost like Naruto was allowing him to understand the inner workings of the village. But why would he do something like that? Jiraiya thought, having so much questions and yet no answers at the moment. Jiraiya decided to ask what he wanted to ask in the first place. How is all of this even possible? The last time I checked, this place was nothing like this at all. Naruto merely smiled as he looked at the man. Come on now. You already know the answer to that. Fuinjutsu, Jiraiya said. Naruto did not answer, but the Sannin knew that he was correct. Hiruzen told me about you. And about your situation. You mean my chakra, said Naruto. So it is truthful. Why would you ask me that, Naruto said. Don't you believe you're Hokage? Yes, but it's extremely hard to believe. It doesn't make sense. Ah, yes. I suppose it doesn't. However, it is correct. He is correct. Naruto said, speaking of Hiruzen, I would like to have a conversation with him. Jiraiya narrowed his gaze. You want him to come here? No. I wouldn't trouble his old bones. The last time I saw him, he was old. I can only imagine how much older he's gotten. This work is rather stressful, Naruto said. So I would be happy to come there myself. The Sannin was glad that Naruto was being so cooperative. So you're the leader here, Jiraiya said, looking around. How did you possibly swing that? The people needed a leader, said Naruto. They needed a home. They needed protection, so I stepped up. And they flocked to me. But I couldn't have done it without them. And a few close people to me, he said. Well, I have to say you did a hell of a job, Jiraiya said. I won't even ask because I already know that. You have no intention of returning to Konoha. And trying to take you from this place will lead to a fight, I have no doubt about that. Naruto's expression did not change, which concerned the Sannin a bit. Speaking of that, you killed Kitsuki. That was you, wasn't it? Yes, it was, said Naruto. Do you have any idea the repercussions that will befall you and your people because of that? As Naruto merely looked at the man. It seems like the silence stretched for hours, but in reality it was just 5 seconds. However, there was just something about Naruto's cryptic gaze that threw Jiraiya off. It felt like he was dealing with a two-sided coin. One good and one evil. They, and many others, eviscerated the Uzumakis in the past. Naruto said, his words sounding so cold. They killed children, innocent adults. I understand the history about the Uzumakis. I know that they were a bit savage. However, they did not start anything. But because of the power they had, because of the people they were targeted. And they were alone. And they were wiped out, said Naruto. But some did survive. The knowledge that no one truly possessed. So, how do you think I would feel, knowing that and returning here to see the hidden stone, one of the people that eviscerated this country, planting and growing on a land that belongs to us? Tell me, if it was you, what would have been your action? In that moment, Jiraiya realized that throughout all of this conversation, throughout everything they've done so far, Naruto has been leading it. He thought he was the one doing it, but now he could see it. This wasn't a boy. Far from it, he thought to himself. As Naruto got to his feet, I suppose I can wait on your answer. So, tell me something, said Naruto. As he turned his back to the Sannin and gazed through the window, Why didn't you give up the search? Naruto asks. Given how crazy it was, realizing that there was nothing to be found. All indication pointed towards me being dead. But you never stopped searching no matter what. Time and time again. Information after information. The smallest sightings. I understand that it was difficult when you lost my father. How close he was to you. Closer than anyone else. He was like a son to you, said Naruto. However, I could have been dead. Why did you continue to search? Is the bond of the family ties that we don't share so strong? Jiraiya got up as he stepped towards Naruto. Now the both of them observing the scene down below. You were right earlier. My life is not exactly perfect, as much as I let it seems like it is, Jiraiya said with a smile on his face. Things are, well, they were bad back then. After all, I felt like I had nothing left and no one. And the fact that I wasn't there. If I could have just been there, maybe I could have done something, but I wasn't there. And with you, I could say that I was busy, being the spy master of Konoha and all. However, it was just guilt. First it turned into days, then months. And I promised that I would come back. I even left you something. That wallet. Naruto looked towards the man. The old frog wallet, he said. I should have known. Yeah, but I didn't come back. Guilt just started to overwhelm me. Perhaps I don't really have any excuse, Jiraiya said. If you want to blame someone, go ahead and blame me. For not being there. However, if I was there, none of this would have happened. And as much as I'm a Konoha ninja, you've done good, he said. Giving these people something that they don't have. And I can see it on theirs and your face. How much they care about you. And how much you care about these people, Jiraiya said. So I suppose none of this would have happened if I was there. But that is still no excuse for what I did. I suppose it's not, said Naruto. But as I said, your actions over the past couple of years proved to me that you are not as bad as I originally thought. After all, you were consumed in guilt once again, and instead of running away this time, you tried to find me, said Naruto. And you're right. If it was for you, none of this would have been possible because you would have been there for me and I wouldn't have run away, said Naruto. He then turned to face the man once again. So I suppose it was for the best. However, I do need to speak to Hiruzen as well. After all, I left him high and dry without much. He was one of the few people in the village that actually cared about me. However, I decided that there was no home for me there anymore. Naruto said, looking at the man. So, why don't you stay for the day? And we leave tomorrow to see. Hiruzen, said Naruto. Jiraiya agreed with that. See no problem there. At least, this could provide a mega drone for the village and this new nation. However, the prospect of a war coming was something yet to discuss. But for the time being, Jiraiya decided to focus on the positive and not the negative. Time skip. Later that night, Asuna was sitting by a mirror as she was brushing her hair. She heard movements behind her, but she did not turn. As she spoke, I suppose he was happy with the visit, she said. More than happy, said Naruto. As I originally thought, he's not that bad, other than being a lecherous pervert, Asuna said. I suppose you're right on that. Naruto said, stepping inside. As she got to her feet. We're going to Konoha tomorrow, he said. There is a chance that this might backfire, she said, looking at him. I know, said Naruto. But I already gave my word. And I'm not about to let that go, like it's nothing. I suppose you're right. Besides, we can weather the storm once it comes. As Naruto nodded his head, she was wearing an elegant gown that wrapped around her in the right way. If Naruto was not questioning anything, he would have noticed that it was a bit too perfectly wrapped around her because it was modified. Her doing, of course. She was enticing. As he stepped towards her, I suppose that we have the rest of the night free. I guess I do have some time off, he whispered as he got closer. I suppose you do, she said. What shall we do, she said, tapping the end of the brush against her chin. I can think of a few things, Naruto said, as she turned and faced him before she jumped. He held her in his arms as their lips connected, as the both of them melted into the kiss. Flashback. Asuna made her way, as she found Naruto, having spent more time inside the time chamber than her. Their age was relatively very close to one another now. This was just a few years back, when Naruto had committed and sentenced hundreds to death. It started with the grass ninjas and then more. The world was slowly chipping away at Naruto piece by piece, even while finding out that he had the 9 tails. Even after knowing everything, Naruto was still a very innocent, kind-hearted person. However, unlike Asuna, who had the information about her clan demise and truly knew how dangerous the world was because of where she grew up, the time period, it was hard on him. She sat beside him. There was a girl, a young girl that Naruto failed to save. He promised her that he would find her sister, but he failed her. They were looking for the rest of the Uzumakis. What happened to that girl? Naruto took it at heart. And the village that caused her so much suffering and pain was no longer amongst the elemental nation. There was no spectators that were able to spread the word of what happened because they were all gone. Asuna sat next to him. You know, when you told me that things were just gonna get worse, I thought that perhaps you were wrong. I was actually praying that you were wrong. But the more I go, the more bad it becomes. How can people be like this? I promised Akayo that I would save her and her sister, but yet I fail. She placed a hand on his shoulder. She was a brave girl, and this wasn't your fault. She tried to fight back herself because you inspired her. You gave her courage, something that she thought that she lost. But this world is a flawed, wicked place that no one can truly control. But as long as you have people by your side to help you through it all, you can make a difference. Naruto turned towards her as the moonlight bathed down towards the both of them. And I will never leave your side, she said to him. Naruto was the one to make the first move. Maybe it was the emotional stress of everything, but he leaned in and kissed her. She pulled back slightly and looked at him. And he felt bad for what he did. Perhaps he misunderstood things. However, her leaning back was to truly look at him, to see if he was actually doing this. As she leaned back in, and from that moment on, a spark had been ignited between the both of them. A spark that has nourished and grown over the past couple of years. And now, in the flashback, here they were, both of them obsessed with one another. Time skip. Jiraiya was surprised, as Naruto said that he would be coming alone. He thought that there would be someone or some others, but no, he would be coming alone. It made Jiraiya realize a few things. He's not seen a single shinobi of this village. The only people that he's seen was civilian, and that person that was dressed in all black. He hadn't seen anyone that looked like they were fighting capable. More than ever before, he knew that Naruto was the one that was playing him and keeping many things at bay, despite him seeming to trust him. As the Sannin and Naruto emerged from the gates, them closing behind them, Naruto put a stop by holding his hand out. "We're not going to be taking boats there," said Naruto. The Sannin was confused. "Why don't you take a hold?" said Naruto, placing his shoulder to a point that Jiraiya could hold on. Jiraiya was still confused, but he did, as Naruto went through one hand sign. Now Jiraiya was caught off guard because he had no idea what that hand sign was. And he knew all of them, and yet, what the hell was that? The next moment, Jiraiya saw the world dazzle in front of him. As he blinked and fell down to his knees, the Sannin was truly confused before he forced the vial back down in his throat, as it felt like he was about to throw up. What the hell was that?" he said. "I should have warned you," said Naruto. "It gives quite a kick the first time you're feeling it." "Feeling what?" I don't understand," Jiraiya said. "Come on now. I can't reveal all my secrets," Naruto said, offering the man a hand. The Sannin took it as Naruto helped him back to his feet. That is when Jiraiya realized trees around them. Wait, where are we? "The border of the land of fire," said Naruto. Jiraiya was shocked. It was teleportation, no doubt about it. But what kind? Did Naruto had a technique similar to Minato's? He did say that he meet his father, right? But that would indeed mean that he marked this area before. Jiraiya was a bit confused, as Naruto was not giving him much information on how he pulled that off. The both of them raced through the trees. Anvus immediately picked up on them. When they came down though, they realized who it was. As the group was giving leeway to go ahead, as they continued to make their way, Jiraiya seemingly watching Naruto, as he seemed to be perfect at tree hopping. While most villages weren't used to these kind of things because of the regions that they were in, Naruto was an expert to the point that Jiraiya knew he's been here before. It seems there was a lot that Naruto was hiding from him. When they finally got to the village, Jiraiya watched every single emotion that crept across Naruto's face to understanding his feelings. As they walked in, it was precaution. The Anvus were watching him carefully, keeping their distance, but they never truly left, and Jiraiya knew. They made their way straight to the office, Naruto making a comment here and there that things has not changed too much. When they got there and heard Hiruzen telling them to come in, they stepped inside. As Naruto greeted the old man with a smile, Hiruzen got to his feet, shocked as ever. "Naruto?" he said. Time skip. For the first couple of minutes, the both of them talked so naturally, like Naruto had not left. They talked like it was an everyday occurrence, as Jiraiya sat there and watched the encounter as well. It was Naruto charisma. He seemed to have a way of speaking without revealing much. The kid was pretty smart in that area. Jiraiya saw that very clearly, as both him and Hiruzen realized that. Hiruzen wanted some answers. Hiruzen asked Naruto where did he go. Naruto was blunt about everything, not holding much back. Jiraiya cursed when he found out that Naruto was in the land of Wave. He was so close and yet he missed him. Despite knowing that Naruto did something big, but still, he was right there. But the people, they lied for him though. Hiruzen tried to get as much information out of Naruto on his new home and his people there, and tried to find out just how strong Naruto has become. Learning about what Fuinjutsu did to Naruto was truly shocking. However, both men noticed that Naruto never claimed to be the one to actually do it. So there was another Fuinjutsu user that was an expert to a fine letter, which caused Jiraiya to make a comment about him being quite the master. When Naruto chuckled, "What's so funny?" said Jiraiya. Not to be hurting your feelings or anything, but compared to you and some of the others, it's like comparing a tiny drop of water to an ocean. What? Jiraiya said. You call yourself a Fuinjutsu master, however, tell me where you rank on the level of Fuinjutsu. Jiraiya folded his arm as he looked rather proud. I'm a number 9, he said. Huh, underestimate me, didn't you? No, that's not it. You see, the standard rating is 1 to 10, but, well, the rating for Uzumaki's is 1 to 100. Wait, what? Jiraiya said. And I know someone that is at 95. Naruto said. The Sannin was shocked, so was Hiruzen, as Naruto was friendly, forwarding, which led Hiruzen to believe that things were going to work. Boom! Hiruzen was caught off guard by the explosion. What the hell was that? He said, immediately getting up. There's nothing to worry about, Naruto said. There's only a few people that is going to die today. Not all. Both men spun around so fast their head nearly spin off. What? Naruto looked towards the both of them with a calm look on his face despite what he just said. But guys, be and subscribe right here. If you want to see next part and do, like, subscribe, comment down below and turn on that bell notification say posted. But I'm out for now guys. See you guys soon. Peace.